So welcome everyone. I hope you had a good week. And today we're going to start with chapter 2, which is about the Cetasikas. And before we start with Cetasikas, last week I told you that there are some little information about the 4 stages of enlightenment that I still have to share with you. So we will do that first. And then we will go on to the Cetasikas. Okay, so today is the session 10. So we're going to look at the Cetasikas. And the first group that we're going to look at will be ethically variable ones, Aññasamāna. And what does that mean? Then we will go into details in a little while. So before we start, let's pay respect by reciting Namo Tassa 3 times together. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato sama sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato sama sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato sama sambuddhassa. Okay, so as we said right now, that before we going into Cetasikas, we are going to see a little bit more about Magga Citta and Phala Citta, the one that we have studied last week. There are a few more details that I would like to share with you. Okay, so last week we have seen the Lokuttara Cittas, supramundane Cittas, which are 8 of them. 4 path consciousness, Magga Citta, and 4 Phala Citta, fruition consciousness. So here I will also answer Mila's last week's question about Phala or Phala. And so I have asked my teacher, and then he said that usually we pronounce it as Fa, so Phala. Okay, so Sotapaddi Magga with the first stage of enlightenment. Then we have Sakadagami Magga, second stage of enlightenment, Anagami Magga, and Arahata Magga, third and fourth stage of enlightenment. And so these ones are actually the enlightenment Cittas. They are the cause, and these ones are the effect, which is the resultant consciousness. Okay, so we see that last time we have already talked about this, that Magga Citta only arise once because it can accomplish its function by arising only once. It's very powerful. So its function is to eradicate mental defilements. So only by arising once, it can totally eradicate or weaken a lot of some of those very strong defilements. So it is very powerful Citta. But for Phala Citta, it can arise more than one time. So both this type of Magga Citta and Phala Citta, both of them takes Nibbana as object. So when the person is with the Nibbana object, then the person will feel very peaceful, right? So when someone after becoming an enlightened person, for example, when someone who reached the first stage of enlightenment, and he's a Sotapanna, and then that person, he can enter into this Sotapanna Phala attainment, which is called in Pali, Phala Samapatti, again, whenever he wishes. So he can experience this peace again. So during this time, during the time when he enters into Phala Samapatti, he can decide whether he wants to stay there for, let's say, 1 day, 2 days, or 3 days, or a few hours. So during those time, in his mind, in his mental process, which we are going to study in details how this works in chapter 4, but in those mental process, a lot of this Phala Citta, if he attained the first Sotapaddi Magga, the first stage of enlightenment, then Sotapaddi Phala will arise, Phala will arise in his mind throughout the time which he decided for that period of time. But for a human being, the limit is being 7 days. No, it is set. So maximum 7 days, he can stay in peace during that time with Nibbana object. So Magga Citta arise only once, but Phala Citta can arise again. Well, actually not again, because it's every Citta arise, exist, and passed away, right? So the same type of Phala Citta can arise in a later time after a person got enlightened. Okay. All right. Okay. So Lokuttara Cittas, supramundane Cittas, these 2 groups, Magga Citta and Phala Citta. Now let's take a little bit more look on each of them. With Sotapaddi Okay, I see that Austin has a question. Yes, please.
You said that he can, the person can decide how long he stays there, but isn't it like uncontrollable? How is it up to him to decide how long to stay in a particular state?
Yes, it is like he make a determination before he enter this kind of attainment. So let's say like jhana. Previously, we have also talked about this, but when we go to the chapter 4, when we study the mental process, it will become even more clear. But now, briefly, I will explain to you how it works. So when a person he first attained Magga-citta, so he first attained, let's say, Sotapaddi Magga, first stage of enlightenment, then the process is complete. Then afterwards, when he wants to, Sotapaddi Magga arise, then Sotapaddi Phala arise 2 times, and then some of the defilements are being destroyed, totally eradicated, and then he became an Ariya, first stage of enlightenment, right? Sotapaddi, in the case of Sotapaddi Magga. Okay, then afterwards, let's say the next day, he wanted to experience this peace of Nibbana again. So he practiced again Vipassana. And then he decides, he makes a determination in his mind, I will stay in this state for, let's say, 2 hours or 3 hours or 1 day. So it's just like when a person practices jhana, he decides to stay in jhana attainment for how long, right? So in the same way, he decides he wants to stay in this phala attainment for how long. Then he practiced, and then he entered into this attainment. And after that certain period of time, which he has decided, then other mental process continues. Then he come out from that state. It works in brief like that. Okay.
Thank you.
Welcome. All right. Okay. So for each of these Magga-cittas, for each of this stage of enlightenment, let's say, it is important that we understand that what kind of factors or what mental defilements are being eradicated with each of this stage of enlightenment. Okay. So we must also understand what are the results of this enlightenment and what changes in this individual after the enlightenment. Okay, so with Sotapaddi Magga, with the stream entry path citta, what is being greatly reduced is sense desire as well as ill will. So these 2 mental defilement, they are not totally eradicated yet at this stage, but they are greatly reduced. Now, what is being totally eradicated is wrong view and doubt. So these 2 are being totally eradicated. So about wrong view, what do we mean here, meaning Sakaya Ditti. For example, the first Magga-citta, it eradicates totally. Sakaya Ditti means self, the self view. So a person who attained this stage of enlightenment, he understands that there is nothing that we can call a self, that we can call I. He understands that it is only, what I call I is only a process, a mental process and a physical process. It's only nama and rupa. Because of this total understanding, so he does not have the wrong view of nama and rupa and this process being an I anymore. So this wrong view is totally eradicated, as well as another type of wrong view. Maybe you have heard about this Silabata Paramasa, which sometimes it is translated as adherence to the rites and rituals. But actually, this translation, there are different ways of translating this word, but what it actually really wants to say is actually the wrong view on practice, not really just rite and rituals. It is more about the practice, having an idea of some kind of practice which cannot, but the person has this wrong view that this kind of practice can take one is the right way for liberation. So this kind of wrong idea. For example, in the time of the Buddha, there are people in India who believe that behaving like a dog or behaving like a cow, like walk like a dog or walk like a cow or eat like a dog, like a cow, like living such a lifestyle can lead one to purification of the mind. So some people in the time of the Buddha believed that way. So these types of views are totally eradicated. So a person, because he has already arrived to the first stage of enlightenment, so he knew how he got there, and also what kind of practice, the Noble Eightfold Path, right? So he knows that that is the only right way for one to purify one's own mind. So the idea of any other practice other than the Noble Eightfold Path can lead to full liberation. These kind of ideas are totally eradicated. So in this case, the wrong view. Okay, then how about doubt? So since he already know the teachings of the Buddha and the Dhamma and the Sangha, so he has no doubt about this, about the triple gem, the Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha, as well as the practice and what is the way and all this, because he already there, he knew. So all this is being eradicated. So that's the first stage of that's what Sotapanna Magga, the stream entry path chitta, does. Okay, so and what happens after that? Then the person who got the first stage of enlightenment, it is said that he is not capable of breaking any of the 5 precepts anymore. So he will never kill, he will never take what is not being given. If he is married or if he has a commitment, then he will never break that commitment, and he will always use right speech, kind speech, and then he will also not take any intoxicants. So this is what happens to a person after he attained the first stage of enlightenment. Now, a Sotapanna, if he did not attain a higher stage of enlightenment in that same lifetime, let's say, so he lived the whole life as a Sotapanna and then he passed away that life as a Sotapanna, in that case, he will never be reborn again in the woeful state anymore. So he will only be reborn either in the human plane, Deva planes, or the 16 fine material plane, or the 4 non-material plane. Because he is not capable of doing any actions that are strong enough to bring him to the woeful state. Because the sense, desire, and ill will and other mental defilements are greatly reduced. So there is nothing strong enough, no defilement strong enough for him to commit anything that can bring him down. So that's why it is said that a person who has attained the Sotapanna Magga has closed the door to the 4 woeful state. And then he will only live a maximum of 7 lifetimes. So either as a human, as a Deva, or in the Rupa or Arupa realms. Okay, so that's about a Sotapanna, the person who attained the first stage of enlightenment. Okay, let's see how about the second Magga, Sakadagami Magga, the once returning path chitta. What does it do? So actually, the second stage of enlightenment, no more other mental defilements are being eradicated, but sense, desire, and ill will is further reduced to a higher degree. So let's say Sakadagami, he might still have some dosa, but it would be very, very mild. So maybe he can get bored sometimes, or maybe he can be afraid of something, but he will never have like great anger or like this dosa that is very, very strong, because with this Magga chitta, sense, desire, and ill will are being reduced to a very how can I say, like it is being reduced to a minimum level. Okay, then what happens in the Anagami Magga, the third stage of enlightenment? The Anagami Magga eradicates totally sense, desire, and ill will once and for all. So at this stage, there will be no more sense, desire, and no more ill will remaining. So sense, desire, and ill will never arise in an Anagami. So meaning that in a person who have attained the third stage of enlightenment, all the dosa mula citta will never arise in his mind again. And all the lobha mula citta concerning sense desire, concerning a sense object, desire for sense object, that will also never arise in his mind again. So in this stage, these 2 are totally eradicated. So since dosa is totally eradicated, an anagami person, a non-returner, he will even never feel bored or never feel afraid of anything because there is no more dosa. Remember, the range of dosa is very large, from very subtle dosa to very high level of anger or rage or like that. So it includes everything. But for an anagami person, since it's totally eradicated, so even the subtlest dosa will never arise in his mind again. Now, for an anagami, if he passed away as an anagami person, then he will only be reborn into the fine material plane or the non-material plane. So usually he will be reborn into the fine material plane in the Sudawasa. But if he wishes to be reborn into another realm, it is also possible, but never into the Kamavachara sphere, sense sphere, never. Why? Because sense desire is totally eradicated from him. So he has no more sense desire. He will not be able to be reborn into the Kamavachara realm. And then it is said that an anagami always keep the 8 precepts. So he does not actually have to take the precepts like we do sometimes in Uposatha Day, like in the observance day, but naturally he will always keep the 8 precepts intact. Okay. Yes, Edith. I just saw that he has a hand raised. Yes.
I just wanted to ask about the Sotapanna. Basically, even if the karma, so the question is, what happens to the karma that they have that would land them in the lower realms
that he has done previously
to those previous existences?
Mm-hmm. Yes. As far as I understand, that the Sotapati Magga Citta is so powerful that it inhibits some kind of previous karmas to arise. So and then after that he cannot perform any defilements which is strong enough to bring him down to the woeful state. So there are some karma, let's say, but getting enlightened also is one of the karma. No, it's very powerful. So that one is the first one that is going to give result, and it gives result of the phala exactly. No, actually Magga and phala is interesting in the mental process. This is the one that give immediate result. So Magga arise and then phala immediately arise. So after Magga, the person already become an Arya person and a noble person. So for him, then he cannot be reborn into the lower realm. But exactly what happened with the other karma, I will ask my teacher again and confirm and let you know next week. Okay. All right. Okay. So let's go to Arahata Magga, the 4th stage of enlightenment. So at this stage, a person, when he reached this 4th stage of enlightenment, he is totally free from any kind of mental defilement. So whatever is left in an anagami person, let's say the 3rd stage of enlightenment, it could be like because remember, sense desire is totally eradicated, but not all kinds of desire, right? So for 3rd stage person of the 3rd stage enlightenment, still he might have some kind of attachment towards the fine or the non-material realm or those kind of life as a Brahma. So even this kind of fine attachment to the fine or the non-material is also eradicated during the Magga. During the Magga of the 4th stage of enlightenment, Arahata Magga. Okay, then another one which is very subtle, mana and conceit, as well as restlessness and ignorance, which is moha. No? Remember, restlessness and ignorance, they accompanied all kind of akusala citta, remember? They are always with every kind of unwholesome mind. So since the Arahata Magga, it eradicates all kinds of mental defilements. So all of this, even the subtlest restlessness and ignorance, are also being totally destroyed. So this is the final goal. Finally, when the Noble Eightfold Path is fully practiced and the person arrived to this last stage. So this is just like when the Buddha got fully enlightened. That's when the holy life has been lived. What had to be done has been done. You are my witness. You recognize this, like when the Buddha got fully enlightened, then he said these words, and then he touched the ground, the earth, and said that the earth is his witness, and he got fully enlightened under the Bodhi tree, right? So that's the Arahatamagga. Okay, all right. So until here, that's all the information. Oh, yes. Eddie, please.
I just also like to mention, if you could mention the chittas that are no longer appearing in the Sotapanna or Sakadagami or Anagami.
Okay, so let's do this together, right? Okay, so for Sotapanna, you can switch on your mic if you like. For Sotapanna, what are being totally eradicated?
Doubt.
Doubt and?
The chitta of moha.
Sorry, the one with what? Ah, right.
Doubt.
Yes, doubt.
Chitta that it's and
Vichikitsa.
Yes. So that is the moha mula, the ignorance-rooted consciousness that are associated with doubt, right? Edith was trying to say this one.
Yeah.
Okay, so yes, that one will never arise in an Sotapanna anymore because doubt is totally eradicated, right? Okay, what else? What else is totally eradicated in Sotapanna? What other mental factor we just said? Want to go back?
Wrong view.
Wrong view. Yes, perfect. Thanks, Claudia. So wrong view is DT, right? DT. Okay, so DT belongs to which group of chitta? Quiz time.
Greed.
Lobha chitta, 4 of lobha chitta, right?
Right, 4 of the lobha mula chitta, no? So all of the ditthi gata sampayutta, lobha mula chitta that is associated with ditthi will never arise again in the Sotapanna. Yeah? Okay. So that's so that's all actually, because sense desire and ill will is very much reduced, but still there are some very subtle ones. So it is possible for other kind of lobha mula chitta and dosa mula chitta to still arise. Okay, let's go to Sakadagami. In Sakadagami Magga, what happens? What kind of defilements are being eradicated or reduced? What happened?
Ill will.
Ill will and
sense desire. And sense
desire are
Reduced
only.
Reduced, right? So it's not totally eradicated. So meaning for Sakadagami, what will never arise again in his mind is the same as Sotapanna. Plus also some kinds of grosser kind of desire or grosser kind of dosa, no? Okay, so let's move on to Anagami. In Anagami, what happened?
No more greed or anger.
Okay, now no more dosa. Dosa is totally eradicated, but greed, be careful, because lobha, what kind of lobha?
Rupa and arupa is still there, right?
Yes, right. Yes, Amma. So lobha, only the sense desire is totally eradicated. So that means there can still be attachment towards fine material life or non-material life. Yes. So he can still attach to the very, very subtle, like very refined kind of existence. Yeah. Those are not sense desire. Okay. So those lobha mula chitta pertaining to sense object will never arise in the mind of an Anagami. plus dosa mula chitta also not possible anymore because totally eradicated. No, it will. So he never gets angry, he never gets afraid, he never get bored, he never get any kind of aversion towards anything, and all this kind. No, all right. Okay, so that's for an anagami person. Okay, then how about for an arahat? What kind of chitta never arises in an arahat?
All except Kriya Chitta, right? Only all will be eradicated except Kriya Chitta, right?
All of what? All chittas?
All lobha,
No.
all dosa, all moha,
All
right?
akusala, right?
All akusala, and
Akusala.
also in the kusala only the Kriya Chitta arises, right? Not
Perfect.
not
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Amar. Okay, so no more akusala, any kind of akusala, because all kinds of mental defilements are totally eradicated, right? Even the restlessness, the subtle one, and even all kinds of ignorance also, no? So no more akusala, as well as very important, kusala also will never arise in him because he will not plant seeds anymore. But that doesn't mean that an arahat will never do good, right? So all the good that he does is now Kriya Chittas, right? Functional consciousness. So, of course, functional consciousness are also this type of beautiful consciousness with roots, right? With good roots, with wisdom, with amoha, adosa, and alobha, no? So all these beautiful cetasikas, which we are going to study also in this coming chapter, all of these are still there, but because he does not plant it anymore, this kind of chitta that arise in him when he do good is no longer called kusala, it's called kriya, right? So very good, Amal, thank you. Yes, Edith.
Chadana, wouldn't the resultant also arise in him?
Yes, it will arise in him. So what will not arise in him is akusala and kusala. So let's see. Now we have seen kamavachara chitta, rupavachara chitta, arupavachara chitta, and lokutara chitta, right? So remember, for rupavachara chittas, arupavachara chittas, and lokutara chittas, these three groups, they are actually those chittas that arise during attainment, either attainment of jhana or attainment of magaphala, no, enlightenment. Right? So it does not mean that a person who attained enlightenment will only have this kind of lokutara chitta, or a person who attained jhana will always have a jhana or only have jhana chitta, because when he is going about his daily life, also he can see, also he can smell, also he can eat, right? So he will also have contact with sense object, only he have no desire for the sense object, right? For the enlightened person, but still he gets in touch with this. So eye consciousness is a resultant consciousness. Of course, it will arise in him. He will still see, then he will still be able to hear and do all this other thing. So in this case, kamavachara chitta that still arise in the person who has attained jhana or who has attained lokutara chitta. So these types only arise during the attainment. Okay. Then when he is going about his daily life, also kamavachara chittas arise in him, besides the ones that we just said that does not arise in which kind of enlightened person. Okay. Is that clear? All right. Okay. Thank you very much, everyone. And then big applause for every one of you. And you have finished chapter 1 already. Okay, so now we are officially going into chapter 2. All right. Okay, so chitta, we have studied 89 or 121 types of chitta, no? The units of consciousness, like what types of chittas are available. So it is like a menu. Yeah, what we have studied is just the menu, like what dishes are available. Yeah. So what we are going to do, that's what we did in chapter 1. What we're going to do in chapter 2 is we are going to look at the Cetasikas, mental factors, the 52 of them, which are actually the ingredients. So now we know that this kind of dishes exist. Now we have to know what ingredients are there. And then later on, after we know what kind of dishes are available, then what kind of ingredients are available, then we will study what kind of ingredients go into what kind of dishes. And then we can start cooking by that time. Okay, so now we are still looking at all the ingredients. All right. Okay, so first, today, we are going to look at the first group of the Cetasikas. And before we go to that, we just want to refresh our memory about Cetasika, which we talked about this in the very beginning of the course, when we talked about Paramata Satcha and the ultimate reality. So I hope you still remember that there are 4 types of ultimate reality, of Chitta, Cetasika, then we have Rupa, and Nibbana, right? So in chapter 1, we finished looking at what types of chittas are available. Now we are going to look at the 52 kinds of Cetasika. Then later in chapter 6, we're going to look at Rupa and Nibbana as well. And then all their combinations and all other details which we need to know. And later on also the practice, right? Because this is what is important. Knowing about all this, don't forget that the main purpose is for our meditation practice, for Vipassana practice. All right. Okay. So if we compare Chitta as a dish, and we compare Cetasika as ingredients, we need to know that they always arise together. So they are inseparable. So it is not possible, although we're using these examples, we have to understand that they're just examples, right? Because it is always possible to take out the ingredients from the dish, right? But for Chitta and Cetasikas, they are always together. They are so mixed together that it is impossible to separate them. So one of my Abhidhamma friend, very good friend, then the example that he used is actually he used the example of water. He said, let's say Chitta is water. And Cetasikas are like different colored paints that you put into the drops into the water, different dye, right? So let's say red drop, a blue drop, and other things. So it colors the Chitta. It makes it have different color, but then it is so mixed together. Then the water and the paint, once they are together, it is not separable. So I think this is also a very good example to remind us that they are not separable. They are always together. But Cetasikas give colors to Chitta. Okay. All right. Okay. So let's look at Cetasika. Cetasika, the word itself, Cetta, we have already explored about this before. It means Chitta is synonymous Chitta, unit of consciousness. And Cetasika means those that depend on Chitta for their arising. So Chitta and Cetasika, they always arise together at the same time and are functionally interdependent. One depends on the other. They are interdependent, but Cetasika can only arise when there are Chitta. And there is no Chitta that arises without Cetasika. So for Chitta, its function is just the bare awareness of the object, while Cetasikas are actually those things that give taste to the Chitta. Okay, so Chitta is one thing. Then the different Cetasika that arise together with the Chitta are another thing, but they are always together. And with their combination, decide whether a Chitta is wholesome or it is unwholesome, or what kind of Chitta it is. So just like cooking, depending on the ingredient that we put into the dish will be different. So there are some ingredients that goes into everything. Let's say when we make soup, then water is necessary. Even you make a pumpkin soup or even you make a miso soup, water is always necessary. Then there are also other kinds of ingredients which give the characteristic of the dish, right? So without pumpkin, we cannot make pumpkin soup, let's say. So miso soup, we need miso, when we put some tofu or whatever. So in this case, there are Cetasikas that are common to different dishes, and there are some that are specific for those kind of dishes. So this applies the same for Chittas. So there are ingredients that goes into any kind of chitta, and there are some that are specific for akusala chitta. For example, those ditthi, lobha, and dosa. And then there are some that are specific for kusala chitta or kriya sometimes, like so the alobha, dosa, moha. But you see, somanasa can be here or can be here, right? So if somanasa associate together with other cetasikas that are akusala, so that makes that chitta akusala chitta, right? So if somanasa associate with beautiful cetasikas, so it makes it a beautiful chitta, right? So there are some that are variable, and there are some that are specific. Okay. All right. So chitta is said to be the forerunner or the leader of cetasika, meaning because chitta means awareness of the object, right? So if there is no awareness of the object, there can be no contact with the object. So without contact, there can be no experience of the object, right? So perception also cannot arise, contact cannot arise, or all other cetasikas cannot arise without being aware of the object. So that's why chitta is said to be the forerunner, said to be the chief of cetasikas. Although they arise simultaneously, no, that doesn't mean that chitta arise first and cetasikas later. No, so in the example being given in the scriptures, is like chitta is like the king, but the king never come alone. So all these other, the minister and the servant and everybody follows and come together. So when the king comes, it always comes together with the group, right? Okay, yes, Amar.
So if you go to Paticca right, the Sankhara is Cetasika, right? And Vijnana is Chitta, right? In that case, it's Sankhara Paccaya Vijnana, right? How do you explain
in
about
Paticca that Sankhara actually means karma. So it's not actually Cetasikas in that case. We have to see in which cases this sankhara, this word is also mental formation. It's also very has many translations and have different contexts and different meaning in different places. So when we get to the Paticca, the dependent origination, in later chapters, that will become very clear. So I ask for a little bit of patience, because last week we saw that in the 5 khandas, that sankhara means the 50 kinds of cetasikas, right? Besides Vijnana and Vedana, yeah? But the sankhara in the Paticca does not mean that. It means something else. It means karma there. Okay, so yes. Okay, so at that time, then we will study. Okay. All right. Okay, now let's see. Let's get back to Cetasika. So for something to be called a Cetasika, it must fulfill, it must have like 4 characteristics. So let's see what they are. The first one, it must arise together with chitta at the same moment and at the same time. So this is one of the characteristics of Cetasika. They always arise together with chitta. But then only with this characteristic does not make something Cetasika, because there are some rupa that arise together with chitta also, no? So that rupa, they are not Cetasika. So we need more characteristic. So the second is that it must perish or disappear together with chitta, with the chitta. So it arises together and it must dissolve or perish together at the same time. And then it must have the same object as chitta. That means if the consciousness is taking, let's say, a visible object as its object, then those cetasikas, all those cetasikas that arise together also take that same object as that chitta that they arise together with. Okay. Now, another characteristic is that it must have a common base as chitta. So this is, we are talking about beings with 5 aggregates. So being with mind and matter, with rupa also, no? So let's say for the 5 aggregate beings, then we have different bases. We have eye base, ear base, nose base, tongue base, and body base, and heart base. So those are the base for chitta to arise. So this consciousness depend on this basis for it to arise. For example, I consciousness depend on I base. So if there is no I subtle matter of the I sensitivity, without I sensitivity, I consciousness cannot arise. So that chitta, I consciousness depend on I base, and all those cetasikas that arise together with that I consciousness must also depend on the I base. So that's the meaning of this, that it must have a common base as with the chitta that it arises together. Yeah. So these 4 things are the characteristics that make something a cetasika. Okay, so now let's look at the ingredients. Ready to cook, everyone? Almost. Okay, let's see. Okay, so we have 89 and 121 kind of chittas, right? Now the ingredients, they are 52 kinds, mental factors. So they are divided into different groups. As we said right now, there are some that are ethically variable. There are some are specific, like some are unwholesome, and some of them are beautiful, right? Okay, so among these 3 groups, they are further divided into 2 categories. One is called universal and the other occasional. So what does that mean? Universal means that it is always there. Let's say ethically variable, meaning that when there is this when there is any kind of chitta, this universal ethically variable ones always arise there. But occasionals, meaning sometimes they may arise, sometimes they may not arise, depending on the kind of chitta. So later we will go into details and it will be even more clear. Okay, so this is kind of like an ingredient map. I think for some other people, some people may understand it better with a different graphic. So I have taken a very good teacher, Aya. I've taken her graphic here to show you. So maybe sometimes with different graphics, then we can have different ideas. Okay, so if this is a chitta, then these ones are the universals. So there are 7 of them that arise together all the time with any kind of chitta. So smallest unit of a chitta must be of 8 factors. So 1 chitta and 7 cetasikas. These are the basic, the smallest unit of a chitta. Then there are another group, which is called the occasionals. There are 6 of them. Then depending on the chitta, on the type of the chitta, sometimes it arises, sometimes it doesn't arise. Then on one side, we have the beautiful mental state. Well, sorry, unwholesome first. Unwholesome ones, 14 of them. So we have to see it like this, if the unwholesome, so like this, okay? This part, like this. And then some of the beautiful, then we have to see it like this, the 25. So it depends. So these ones, they are sometimes there, sometimes not. Universal, surely, then some occasionals. And then if it is unwholesome, there are some that are always there, like moha. And if there are some that are sometimes there, sometimes not. Beautiful also in this way. Okay, so just a different way of presentation that might help our understanding. All right, okay, so now let's go to the first category, which we are going to look at, those ethically variable mental factors. So in Pali, it's called Aññasamāna cetasikas. So let's see the Pali word itself. Añña means the other. Samana means to be common. So Aññasamāna means to be common with the other. All right, so the other. What others? What does the other mean? No, to common with others. What? So that means common with kusala, akusala, vipaka, and kriya. So all 4 kinds of chittas, these cetasikas are common to all of them. It is possible to arise in all of them. Okay, so especially if we say kusa and akusala, then we understand that why the translation says it's ethically variable, no? So actually in the Pali word, it says Aññasamāna, meaning that it is common to all, but the English translation is translated as ethically variable. So we can understand the translation by looking at like those mental factors that are common for wholesome and unwholesome states as well. That means that they are ethically variable. Depending on other ingredients, then it makes the chitta, and it can associate with kusala or it can associate with akusala as well. So let's get back to the cooking examples. So they are a little bit like flour. So flour itself is quite neutral, right? You can make it into sweet thing or you can make it into salty thing. Depends on if you put sugar and banana and all these sweet ingredients, then you make a sweet cake. But if you put, let's say milk or other I don't know, other kind of cereals or something, then you can make salty bread or something. All right. So this salt and this sugar is kind of like those ingredients that make the difference. But then the flour and the water are the things that are variable, right? So it can be sweet or it can be salty depending on the other ingredients. Okay, so this is just an example. I know when we make sweet bread, we put salt also, but we understand the example, right? Okay. Okay, so Aññasamāna Cetasikas, then we have further divided into two groups. So universals that are always there, occasional, sometimes there, sometimes not, depends on the occasion. Okay, so let's go to the first group first, universal. So what are those Cetasikas that are ethically variable as well as universal? Okay, so in Pali, it's called Sabba Citta Sadharana. So let's see the Pali word. Sabba means all. Citta, unit of consciousness, all kind of consciousness. Sadharana means common. So these are the Cetasikas that are common to all Cittas. That means they arise in all kinds of Cittas. Whether it is Kamavachara, Rupavachara, Arupavachara, even Lokutara, or they are Kusala or Akusala, Kriya or Vipaka, doesn't matter, as long as there is as long as Citta arise, these universal ones always arise together with them. Okay, so what are they? There are 7 of them. The first one is phassa, contact. The second one is vedana, mental feeling. So always when there is a citta, consciousness is to aware of an object, right? So it must get in contact with some kind of object. So getting in contact with the object is the work of this particular Cetasika. And when we get in contact with something, well, I mean, when the mind gets in contact with something, it always has a feeling. Okay, then it has a perception. Sanya is another Cetasika. Then we have Cetana, volition. Also, we have Ekagata, one-pointedness. We have Jivitindriya, life faculty. And we have Manasikara, attention. So these 7 are the universal Cetasikas. Now we're going into each one of them. So we'll have more details about what they do, what are they. Okay, so let's get into the first one. Okay, let's just go around again. We have phassa, contact, vedana, mental feeling, sanya, perception, cetana, volition, ekagata, one-pointedness, jivitindriya, life faculties, manasikara, attention. So we have these 7. So just by looking at the name, it's hard to know, like, what does it actually mean? So now we're going to look at them one by one. First, let's go to phassa. What is phassa? Phassa means contact, but the contact here does not mean physical contact. It means mental contact. Okay, so when some object comes into the avenue of the senses, let's say the eye, the ear, the nose, and whatever, then there is the awareness of the object, right? There is a vivid experience of that object, and it is the impingement of the object on the mind. So that contact, it's what is called phassa. For example, in the case of eye consciousness, so we need to have sensitive matter, no, pasada rupa, eye sensitivity. Then we need something to see, visible object. Then when the visible object, actually not the object itself, but the visible quality of that object and the sensitive matter, when they comes into contact, then eye consciousness arise, right? So when eye consciousness arise, there is this phassa cetasika together there. So this is the contact that we are talking about. Okay. All right. So just give me 1 second. I need to make a little adjustment here on the screen. Okay. Okay. All right. So in the case of ear sensitivity is the same. We have sensitive matter, and then we have sound. And then when it gets into contact, and it so this is the mental contact. Yeah? So I changed the mosquito. I thought it was more pleasant, this one. Okay. All right. So for smell also, it can, whether it is good smell or bad smell. So the contact that we get into the mental contact, right? Okay. So also taste as well as touch. Okay. So depending, or contact are of 6 kinds. Yeah. So depending on the sense, like eye consciousness, or ear consciousness, nose, tongue, depending on the specific base and the object, so it is different. But then for the mind, there is also this mind contact, right? So it is easy to understand if we just imagine when you see someone eating lemon, or you imagine yourself eating lemon, sometimes then you can feel the saliva coming into your mouth, right? So those actually are that image in your mind. That is the contact. Those are the kind of phasa that we are talking about. So it's not necessarily that we actually touch the thing, but the mental contact is what we call phasa here. So it is like when your mouth water when you see someone tasting lemon vinegar or ripe mango, like this little one. Okay, so now when we talk about different Cetasikas, when we study them, most of the time we use the 4 defining device. So what is the 4 defining device? This is actually 4 things that is very important to understand anything. So let's say for I will first introduce what are they first. The first one is called lakkhana. When we want to understand an ultimate reality, we want to understand its characteristic, because each kind of ultimate reality, it has its own characteristic. So to understand something, it's important we know its characteristic or its mark. So by this mark, we know what it is, right? Because it is specific to that ultimate reality, right? Then we have rasa in Pali, which means function or achievement. That means that this specific ultimate reality, what does it do? What is its function? Or what does it achieve? What is its achievement? Then we have Pachupatana, its manifestation or its result. So how is it being manifested? Or what is the result of after what it does, after its function, what is the result of it? What happened after what it does, right? Okay, and then we have Padatana, the proximate cause. So why is these 4 important? It's because these are actually things that we can see during our meditation. Actually, specifically, these 3, lakkhana, rasa, and pachupatana. And later on, in later chapters, we are going to study the 10 kinds of different vipassana jnana, the wisdom, vipassana insight wisdom, right? So we have to understand that in order to get magga and phala, first, we have to pass through different stages of understanding. So with different stages of understanding, and the very, very first ones, even before we actually call it really, really vipassana, we have to understand the characteristic, each individual characteristics of each ultimate reality. Yeah. So let's say loba, the characteristic is very sticky, right? So we have to understand what it is. Then we have to understand its function, or we understand its manifestation. So these 3 is possible to be known by the mind during meditation. So when we meditate on something, nama or rupa, each of them have their characteristic, has their function, has their manifestation. Manifestation actually means how it is being manifest in the mind of the meditator. Let's say lobha, when it is manifest, how it is, right? Okay, so sometimes characteristics are more clear, sometimes the function is more clear, sometimes manifestation is more clear, so it depends. But then these are the things that we can actually see, we can actually know during meditation, and the proximate cause are something that can be understood. So if we have studied the Dhamma, then we know, oh, okay, this phenomena is like this, this cause is this, right? So this can be understood. And then this cause is actually also important because it's the next stage of understanding. No, that's the paccaya parigaha jnana, the understanding of what are the causes. So these are actually totally related with our meditation practice. So now when we study Cetasika, we also want to look at these four defining devices of each of them. Okay, so now let's look at phassa, mental contact. What is the characteristic of phassa? So the characteristic of phassa is the touching. It's the touching. So the touching of what? Of the object and of the mind, right? Okay. Now, what is the function of the touching? So that's the impingement. Now, it caused the citta and the object to touch, to impinge, to touch each other. And how is it being manifested? So it is manifested as the coming together of the citta, the sense faculty, and the object. So these three, how is phassa being manifested? So when the sense faculty, let's say the eye, and the visible object come together, then the citta arise. At the same time, it arises. Then phassa is the when we see the coming together of these three things, the citta arise. That's the manifestation of phassa, of contact, when it comes together. And what is its proximate cause? And the proximate cause is an object that comes into the focus of the sense faculty. So when there is an object to be seen, then phassa is the cause for phassa, or well, the citta, because when we say citta and phassa, we are now separating them and studying their different characteristics. But remember, they always arise together, no? So they are together. So this is the specific function, characteristic, function, manifestation, and proximate cause of phassa. So this is what it does. Okay. So we have finished with phassa, and then we have 6 more to go for today. But before that, let's take a little break. Oh, okay. Austin has a question. Let's take the question first.
So just to say, like, the knowing of it is in the manifestation stage, right? Before that, there's no knowing.
The knowing of what? Sorry?
The knowing of an object.
Is the manifestation of contact?
That's what I kind of understood, but maybe I'm wrong.
Okay, let's see. All right. The manifestation here, it says the coming together of the three. So actually, manifestation is how, what manifestation means that how this phassa is manifested in the mind of the yogi when he is contemplating, how one sees what is contact, right? So how is it being manifested? So when citta and the sense faculty and the object comes together, the coming together of these three is how phassa is being manifested in the mind of the yogi. Is it clear?
Okay, thank you.
All right. Okay. Okay. So proximate cause, an object that comes into focus of the sense faculty. Okay. So now let's take a little break of 5 minutes, and then coming back, we'll see. Oh, okay. Claudia, another question. Okay. Let's take this too.
Sorry.
It's okay.
Just there is a difference if somebody see an object for the first time, or is an object that is already known. So if we have seen the object many times, because this word impingement for me is like, I don't know.
Now, remember when we talk about the chitta and the Cetasikas, we are talking about very, very subtle things. We are looking at things like under microscope. Yes, so it's not really so much like our daily life. Have I seen this before? Because to recognize or to see something, we actually need a lot of different mental process and many of this chitta and together with Cetasika arise in order for the mind to even know this thing, either for the first time or for the second or the third or many times. No, so now we are talking about this contact. It's very, very subtle. It's just the chitta that get in touch with its object. So not really so much about like whether we have seen it before.
Okay, thank you very much.
All right, welcome. Okay, so let's take a short break, and then coming back, we will look at the other universal Cetasikas, okay? Okay, welcome back, everyone. Okay, so let's continue with the other Cetasikas. Okay, so we're finished with Phassa, and now let's go to Vedana, mental feeling. Okay, now remember, now when we are studying these Cetasikas, we are trying to understand what they are with the 4 devices and how they, like when do they arise or in what cases that will come later. Because we are now trying to know what is potato, what is tomato, and what is salt, what is pepper, and then we are studying each kind of different ingredients, right? So later on, how to cook tomato pasta, then that will come later. So in which dish this tomato can be used, like in a tomato soup or in a pasta or in something. So this will come later. Okay, so now we are only looking at the ingredient itself. All right, so let's see, Vedana. So Vedana is the mental factor which experience the object as either pleasant or unpleasant or neutral. So that's called Vedana or mental feeling. And so let's see what are the 4 devices. Now, what is the characteristic of Vedana? So Vedana is the experience, is to feel. So it is said that other mental factors also experience the object, but Vedana is the one that experiences the object to its full extent. So that's why mental feeling alone is called Vedana. The other mental factors have their own function, although they also feel the object, but Vedana is the one who does this specific function to experience fully the desirable or the undesirable aspect of the object. So it's what Vedana does, its job, its function. Okay, so how is it manifest? So it is manifested as like or its manifestation or its result, right? So it gives taste to other mental factors because he is the one who really feel and really taste fully the object. So it gives and then it let all the other mental factors or the chitta, all those that arise together, it gives taste to the other mental factors. So if Vedana the fully experiencing of the object as somanasa, so all the other mental factors and with the chitta also feels like somanasa together with this object, no? Have a mental pleasant feeling towards this object, no? Okay, so its proximate cause here is the contact, because without contact, then Vedana cannot arise. So its proximate cause is contact. Now, Vedana is compared to a king who thoroughly enjoyed the taste of a feast, while the other ingredients, other mental ingredients or mental factors are said to be like the cook. They also taste the object, the taste, the food itself, but only while they are cooking, while they are preparing, they just taste a little bit, no? So all other mental factors, they only have a little taste of the food, but the king and the queen are those who really enjoy the feast, right? So Vedana is the one that is compared to the king and the queen, and all other mental factors to be the chef. Yes, Edith.
I noticed that only Vedana is like three types but it's the one Cetasika, and no other Cetasika is like that. I wondered why that is. Like,
because all of them, whether it is Somanasa, whether it is Domanasa, whether it is Upeka, they are just different. They are just the name of Vedana. In ultimate reality, it's just Vedana. In ultimate reality, there is no Somanasa Cetasika. Somanasa is Vedana Cetasika. Domanasa is Vedana Cetasika. And Upeka is also Vedana Cetasika. So Vedana always arises with any kind of chitta. So it's only mental feeling, but the feeling itself can be different depending on the object, right? So let's say dosa, it's only one Cetasika, but it can be anger, it can be boredom, it can be, so the colors can be different, but it's in ultimate reality, it's only one Cetasika itself, but it can be so different, no? Yeah.
So does this mean that in ultimate reality, what kind of feeling is not important? It's just recognizing that it's just a feeling?
In a way, you may say so. Vedana is only Vedana.
Okay.
Okay, welcome. Okay, so that's Vedana. Okay, let's go to the other one, Sanya. Now, Sanya is perception. So perception is actually like making marks. So when we experience the object, the mind making marks on the object. So when we experience it again, then the mind knows that, oh, this is this or this is that. So those are the perception, the things that we have seen before, just like what Claudia was saying. This is actually the job of perception, not the job of contact. Okay, so it is compared as carpenters making mark on their timber so that they know which piece is which kind of wood and where to put them, and then when they need it, when they come across this again, then they know what is it. So Sanya make marks on the object, right? Okay, but then be careful, since Sanya it's ethically variable one, and it's it can be sometimes right, it can be sometimes wrong. So Sanya perception, there are right perception, there are wrong perception. So sometimes it can be correct, can be wrong, but once Sanya make a mark that something is like this or like that, then it will interpret that object by way of the mark. So sometimes if we see a rope, then we may think that it's a snake. Also, it depends, and it is not always right. So we have all experienced with Sanya, then it is something with something, but we see it as something else because of perception, right? Okay, so just I found this picture previously and found it a little bit interesting. Sanya, what do you see? This is just just for fun. All right. Okay. Well, so Sanya is not very trustworthy. So sometimes we see different things which are not actually what it is. So the most dangerous one is what we see Sanya, see ourselves as ourselves. I see this is me, this is myself. But then Sanya makes us believe that this is me, this is myself, which in ultimate reality is only just Nama and Rupa, right? So that kind of Sanya is actually a wrong Sanya. So we have to sometimes be careful about whether our perception is right or wrong. So there is a story, actually an experience that I also like to share with you because it has been quite a shocking experience, actually. So many years ago, Bante Rahula and myself, we were walking on the street, and then so there was there is a road and the cars are passing by. So we were walking in the sidewalk, and the pedestrian, we were walking, and then we saw that on the road there are something, just something got on the road. And then a car passed by. And then we both of us heard like that. And then we said, oops. And then Bhante Rahula, he said that, okay, so I have to go pick it up because poor animal, will not just let him stay on the street and then cars keep passing by. It is kind of terrible. So he said, okay, I'm going to pick it up. And I said, okay, I'll wait for you here. Then he went, and then after some time, and then he came back, and then he said, what did you see? Then I said, a cat. And then he said, I thought it was a dog. And then what he hold up and show me was actually an umbrella. So I was so scared because I saw a cat, and then I thought the car ran through, and then he saw a dog, the car went through, but then when he went to pick it up, it was actually an umbrella, and then it sounded a crack when it went past through. No, so that's how perception works. Like different person, different same situation, but actually both might actually not be actually what it was. Yes, please.
So Sanya is also participating in wrong view, right? And all the ignorance that we have.
Yes, actually, if it is a wrong sanya, because you see, sanya itself is not good nor bad. It can be, if it is associated with ignorance or if it is associated with wisdom, it actually depends on also other Cetasikas that arise together with it, because it itself, sanya itself is perception. It's only to know the thing, but then it can know it rightly or it can know it wrongly. So it depends on what other Cetasikas it associates with, depending on the situation. Because those enlightenment citta, we are talking about those universal ones. So even in the Lokutara citta, sanya is also there. It's always with all kinds of cittas. So for those ones, surely they are right ones, good ones. Okay, yes, Chie.
I'm thinking of our earlier lessons when we spoke about jhana and the mind taking neither perception nor non-perception as an object.
Mm-hmm.
So how does that relate to this?
Mm-hmm. Okay, so
would you also say?
Yeah, please continue.
So would you also say this universal citta is so Cetasika is arising during jhana?
Yes, of course. Because in all kinds of citta, it must always arise together with these 7 Cetasikas. They are the basic. These 7 that we are studying right now, they arise together with any kind of citta. So even jhana citta, even magga citta, even phala citta, all kinds of cittas that arise always include sanya cetasika. Now, talking about the neva sanya, na sanya, ayatana, that jhana, that citta, that's a very, very high degree of concentration of a very high jhana, right? So that jhana citta, in that case, that sanya actually does not only mean perception. It means those other Cetasikas, or actually the citta, that other Cetasikas that also arise there. But sanya is being taken as like a group leader. So it is mentioned, sanya, to mean the all other mental factors as well, because ekagata is also there, one-pointedness. Remember, it must be there. Then upeka, vedana, it's also there, right? So these other phasa, contact, the one we just saw, must also be there. Then so all other these factors, they are also there. But why is it called the nevasanya nasanya? Because that citta is so subtle that it's almost nothing. Almost nothing, but still there are something. So those Cetasikas and it's so fine, so refined. This citta is so refined that you can hardly recognize those ingredients or those mental states that are in there. So it's like we said, like the other day we used the example as with a water bottle. If a person is very thirsty and you give him this bottle, then he will say there is no water. because there is not enough water to drink, you know. So when you give it to a person who want to keep some dry beans inside, then he will say, no, there is water inside, right? These little water drops. So that's why it is neither, we cannot say that there is water, or we cannot say that there is no water. So that's why then neither sanya, neither perception or non-perception. This is just to show how refined this chitta is. So sanya there being taken as the representative of all other mental ingredients, not only sanya itself. So even it is almost not perceivable or non-perceivable, so refined, that kind of jhana. Okay.
So just to check, so the universal what do you call it? Cetasikas are there, but they're weaker. They're much weaker. Is that what you're saying?
No. They don't get weak. They are actually the very refined, but they are very refined. Because of the very high jhana, no, it's a very refined state of mind. It's so concentrated, so they get very refined and very calm. So not that they are weak. Okay. Especially ekagata must be so strong, the one-pointedness, right? Okay. All right. So Austin.
I just wanted to clarify, are these Cetasikas arising sequentially or simultaneously? Because, like, for example, if Phassa is there, is Vedana necessarily present, or maybe first Phassa and then, followed by Vedana? Is it sequential or simultaneous?
Simultaneously, actually. So. Okay. Yes, so it sounds like that, right? It sounds like first you contact, then you feel, and then maybe you have a perception about the thing. But actually, that they are so fast, and they actually everybody does their job at the same time. So contacts with the object immediately, and then the Vedana feel the object immediately, and then perception receive the object immediately at the same time. They all do the job because they arise together at the same time.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome. All right. Okay, so if there's no more question, let's see the 4 devices of sanya. Let's see what is the characteristic. Now, the characteristic of sanya is the perceiving of the quality of the object. And its function is to make a sign as a condition for perceiving again that this is the same. So it makes a mark. What sanya does, it makes a mark. So next time when it sees it knows what it is. Yeah. Okay, then manifestation. The interpreting of the object by way of the features that has been apprehend. So let's say the function previously it makes a mark like this, so it's know that this is the same thing. This is this. So it is manifested as the interpreting of that object by way of looking at its mark, no, or its feature that it has already previously seen it, no? Okay, so what is its proximate cause? And the object as it appears. So the object itself. All right, so that's for sanya. And let's go to the next one, cetana. Okay, now cetana is volition. Cetana organizes and pushes its associated mental factor in acting upon the object. Okay, so cetana is the one who organizes all other cetasikas and push all other cetasikas to act upon the object, because it's the volition. Now it wants to do something. Now it's the volition. Okay, now I know this graphic again, the brain, then it is going to cause some kind of question, but this is just graphics. It is just the design, let's say. So never mind about whether it has to do with the brain or not. Okay, so we are talking only about the cetana, volition, the cetasika. Okay, now it is compared to, I don't know if you have seen this dragon boat. It's a festival in Asian culture. So it is like a boat racing. So many people that actually row And then there is one person you see here. What he does is that he plays the drum, and he kind of encourages everyone, right? So he's playing the rhythm, and so everyone is following him, and then he's encouraging everyone to go, let's go, like we're going to the goal, we're almost there. So Chetana is like this person. He is on the ball, and then he is encouraging everyone to work towards what he wants, towards the goal, right? Okay. So now Chetana is also a very significant mental factor. Actually, it's actually what is karma, right? In the Anguttara Nikaya, Nibbētika Sutta, then you can find it is said that Chetana aham bhikkhave kammam vadami. Monks, Chetana is what I call karma. So Chetana, this Cetasika is very important. It is actually what is karma, no? Because since it is volition that determines the ethical quality of the action, right? Okay, so now you may say, then how about, we are talking about universal Cetasikas. How about those Chetana in Vipaka Citta, in resultant consciousness? It's not doing anything, so what does it do there? Like, it is not creating karma. So in that case, Chetana is encouraging all other Cetasikas to perform their own action. Like Chetana encourages Phassa to do its job properly, encourages Vedana to do its job, it encourages other Cetasikas, it unites and it organizes everyone to do the job. So that's the function of Chetana when it is in the case of Vipaka Citta and Kriya Cittas and those that does not create karma, okay? But then when it is Kusala or Akusala, besides encouraging everyone else to do the job towards the object, it also creates karma. So for those kind of cittas, kusala or akusala, it actually has two functions, okay? All right, so let's look at the characteristic of Chetana, volition. The characteristic of Chetana is the state of willing, like wanting to do something, willing. The function is to accumulate karma in the case of kusala and nakusala. And then manifestation is manifested as the coordination. It coordinates all Cetasikas to do their own job. And its proximate cause is the associated states. Like, because he must have someone to organize, like he's organizing everyone, but he needs the other ones there to be organized. So the other Cetasikas are actually is proximate cause. Okay, so Chetana is also compared to be like the manager. She also does her job and she urges others also to do their job. So Chetana is in the same way. It makes sure that the others, that she's doing her job, and then he makes sure that all the others are engaging on the object, doing the job also. All right, so that's about Chetana volition. Next, go to the next one, Ekagata, one-pointedness. Okay, now one-pointedness here, you may say that, well, I don't feel like I am concentrated all the time. So if it is a universal Cetasika, then I must be concentrated all the time, right? So this one-pointedness actually, it is necessary just only to engage with the object. This one-pointedness is necessary. What it is meant here, remember, every citta arises, exists, and then it passes away. And then another citta arises, exists, and it passes away. So this one-pointedness, in this specific, in any of those citta, what it does is that it concentrates, or it may be very weak, but there is still ekagata. It gets the mind gets to the object, so not be directed from the object. So this is the job of ekagata. So, but when it is very well developed, then it can be developed into even a jhana factor, right? Into so strongly, no? So when we say that there is samadhi, or that the mind is on the object for a long time, and then it doesn't mean that the citta lasts for a long time and then this ekagata is always there. But instead, this one mind arises and then it stayed with this object, and then another mind arises and it stayed with the same object or the similar object, and then it keeps going, arise a lot of the different minds doing that same thing. So that's how we understand for long-term concentration, as we understand long-term concentration. Okay, so this ekagata that associate with all kinds of cittas are only the one that does not allow the mind to be distracted from its object. Okay, so when it is highly developed, it can be very, very strong, even until the extent of jhana citta. No? Now, for example, this girl, when you see that she is concentrated, right? So this concentration is not only one moment, but then the next moment, the next mind that arises, she's still concentrating on there. The next mind is also concentrating on there, also concentrating on there. So with a lot of this similar types of mind arising together, that's what we call concentration. Okay. Yes.
I just wanted to ask if one develops this ekagata to a higher jhana level, let's say. So does it fluctuate during? Does it become weaker, like in daily life, or they have that strong concentration even in daily life?
I think in order for it to be jhana, then it must be developed, and then it must get to a very, very high level, very strong degree of concentration before one really enter into jhana. Right. So in daily life, maybe it is not necessary that kind of so strong concentration. Even the person can do it, but it is not necessary. Plus, the person cannot actually maintain that kind of concentration, because in that case, he cannot walk, he cannot eat, he cannot talk, because if his mind is on one thing all the time, right? It is on the object.
I just mean that the strength of ekagata doesn't drop, right? I mean, it's still pretty strong even in daily life.
I would say eventually, after some time, it can vary, but yes, you may say that it is capped, because there are also our teachers also explain that a person after attaining jhana, then even in his daily life for a long period of time, as the 5 hindrances does not arise in his mind. If the 5 hindrances are being suppressed, that means that his concentration is still strong. He's keeping his mind on kusala. Right, so maybe he's not in jhana, like not as strong, but yes, to a much higher level than how we used to in daily life. But also it can fluctuate, because people can lose jhana as well, and also many different situations. But you're right, yes, it will. They have much stronger concentration than, for example, a person who comes out from jhana and then he contemplates vipassana. Then he's much more efficient, because his mind is so sharp and so concentrated, right? Okay, welcome. All right, so ekagata, any kind of citta, so even in animals it can also arise. Look at this cheetah or leopard. It's amazing, right? Okay, well, but then imagine that this ekagata is ethically variable, right? So sometimes it can be, as when it is associated with good cause, then it is something really good, but also it can associate with akusala. So if someone is aiming, let's say this person in this image, like is aiming to kill someone, then also strong concentration is also necessary. So depends on the other kinds of cetasika which is associated together in that citta, it makes that citta a kusala or an akusala one. Okay, so ethically variable. This concentration also, although it's powerful, we have to be careful what other cetasikas it associates with. Okay, so characteristic, not wandering or non-distraction by another object. No, so the mind is kept on the object. So this is the characteristic of ekagata. Its function is to unite the associated states. So it unites the citta together with other cetasikas. So it is compared to water, which keep which keeps together the grains of the flour. No? So when we make a dough, then we have flour, we put flour and then we put water and then we knead it and it become a dough. So it keeps all the flour together. Once it is together, then the flour does not fall apart anymore, right? So its function is like that. It unites all the associated states and keep them together. So its function. Now manifestation is stillness. So this stillness is compared to a flame that is placed in a place where there is no wind. It is so still. So it is manifested in that way in the mind of the yogi. Okay, and its proximate cause is happiness originated from non-attachment to sensual pleasure. So this proximate cause is particularly for for meditation, right? So it is said that this one-pointedness is caused by the happiness, the sukha, which is originated from non-attachment to sensual pleasure. Remember, sensual pleasure is one of the 5 hindrances. So when the mind is calm, when it is feeling happy because it is not attached to sensual desire, then the one-pointedness can arise. This ekagata can become stronger. So this is one of the proximate causes for ekagata. Okay, so let's go to Jivitindriya, life faculty. Okay, so in the Abhidhamma, there are 2 kinds of Jivitindriya. There is a mind Jivitindriya and also there is a body Jivitindriya. So mind life faculty or vitality and the body life faculty or vitality. And here, since we are talking about mental factor, we will focus on the life faculty of the mind first. And Rupa 1 will come in chapter 6. Okay, now let's see its characteristic. So Jivitindriya, translated as life faculty or vitality, its characteristic is to maintain the associated mental states. So it is actually also a Cetasika, but what it does, its characteristic is to maintain everyone alive. So it gives vitality, that's why it's called the life faculty, no? So its function is to make them go on, keep them alive until the end of their lives. Like the end of their lives, meaning what? So the lifespan of a cheetah is actually, well, now 1 moment of cheetah is actually composed of 3 sub-moments: the arising moment, upada, titi, existing moment, and the dissolving moment. So arise, exist, and dissolve. So every cheetah exists for 1 moment, which is made up of 3 sub-moments. So arising, existing, and dissolving. So this Jivitindriya keeps all the other Cetasikas alive for these 3 moments. Okay, so its manifestation is to establish their presence. Then its proximate cause is the other mental states to be maintained. Now, if what he does is that he keeps the other Cetasikas or the other mental factors alive, no? So it must have something that to be kept alive, to be maintained. So if there is nothing for him to maintain, then so what does he do? So right, so that's his proximate cause is the other mental states. The example given in the scripture is like Jivitindriya is compared to water that keeps the lotus alive. So without water, the lotus cannot stay alive, right? Okay, now then we may say, if the water keeps the Jivitindriya keeps all other mental factors and the chitta alive, then what keeps Jivitindriya alive? So it is also compared as the boatman who takes passengers crossing to the other shore. Yeah. So this Jivitindriya is like the boatman. While maintaining the others, he maintains himself as well. While bringing the other passengers to the other shore, he also brings himself to the other shore. So it is said that Jivitindriya, he keeps everyone and himself alive. Okay, so that's about life faculty. And then we have the last one, manasikara. Now, manasikara is the attention, and it is compared to the rudder of the ship, which directs the ship to its destination. When there is no attention, then the mind has no aim. It goes here and there like a bow without a rudder. So when there is a rudder, then the mind the mind can be directed, and then we can direct the bow to where we want to go. So manasikara is in the same way. With the attention keeps the mind going towards the object. Okay, let's take a look of this. Attention means attention towards the object, right? So its characteristic is conducting the associated mental states towards the object. So it's like he's guiding everyone. Look, everyone, we're going that way. So he's keeping everyone, bringing everyone's attention towards the object. Okay, its function is to bond the associated states to the object, giving the direction, right? Okay. Then its manifestation is the confrontation with an object. So it's going towards the object. Everybody is bonding all the associated state towards the object. And its proximate cause is the object itself. So another example. So attention, manasikara, is compared to the driver of a horse cart that directs the well-trained horses, which are the other mental associated mental factors in this case, to their destination. The destination being the object itself. So it is like the horse cart driver guiding everyone towards the object. So that's the work of manasikara, of attention. Okay, so up till here we have seen phasa, vedana, sanya, chetana, ekagata, jivitindriya, and manasikara. So they are the 7 universal cetasikas that arise with all kinds of chittas. So all of these 7 is always there with any kind of chitta. Okay, so that's the universal ones, ethically variable. Then next week, we are going to look at the ethically variable occasional ones. Okay, so I think up till here, it's enough for today. So we will keep the occasionals for next week. Okay, all right. So if you have any questions, we have still a few minutes, or if you have any questions, we can take them, or otherwise we can finish a little bit early.
I do want to ask a little bit of more clarification about attention, if possible. Like I had issues understanding like how is it different from ekagata.
Okay, let's go back to ekagata. Okay. Now, ekagata, let's take a look at, let's compare the two of them, okay? So ekagata, one-pointedness, it's keeping the mind not wandering or not distracted from the object, right? So it's keeping the mind on the object, while manasikara, it's pointing towards the object. We are going there. It's like the rudder of the ship. So it's showing the way. Where is the object? No, it's showing the way there. So the work of my attention is paying attention to the object. So it's showing, it's guiding everyone else, all the mental factors and the chitta itself towards the object. So this is our object. So once we know that, this is the job of manasikara. So this is the object, and then ekagata stayed with it. It doesn't go away from the object that manasikara showed everyone, right? So manasikara direct the attention towards the object, and ekagata stayed with the object. Does it make sense? It does not.
Yes. Now it sounds like vitaka for me. Weird.
Yes, and vitaka is actually another mental factor, which is an occasional. So now the difference between manasikara, attention, and vitaka is like with Manasikara pointing, it goes towards the object. It directs everybody. We are telling that this is where we are going. This is the direction. And Vitaka is actually the stretching, the getting of it. And Vichara,
Okay.
the holding of it. Yes. So they are very subtle and they are quite similar, but they actually have a slightly different function. Is it a little bit more clear?
Yeah, it's just not easy to
Mm.
recognize it in your practice.
Oh, yes. Actually, one thing that we have to understand that to understand and to look and to see all this, especially those that has very fine functioning, like Vitaka, Manasikara, and all this are actually the work of the Buddha, the job of the Buddha. So to understand all this, so that's why the Buddha understood it, and then he explained to us how this worked, right? So for us, when we practice, we understand as much as the mind can understand. Then, and let's say, for example, there are those cetasikas that are very obvious. Let's say lobha, dosa, and those are the things, or metta, or like all these good ingredients, compassion, and all these things are easier for us to contemplate on and understand. For these very subtle functions of the mind, we just need to, in a way, understand how it works. But to contemplate on them is not easy. I think there is also, I have to check it again because I don't remember exactly right now. There are some kind of was it a Cetasika or something that even the Venerable Sariputta is hard for him to see that in his meditation. I have to ask my teacher again, or I have to remember which one was it. So there are some of them that are so subtle that that really is the job of the Buddha.
Yeah, I remember the sutta.
Which one was it? Can you
Studied it
remind me?
recently.
Which factor?
I think it was the neither perception nor non-perception that Sariputta saw it as a whole, and he saw that it comes and passes, but he could not see the mental factors in it.
Yes, I think probably is that one. Yeah. Okay. Thank
Yeah.
you. Yeah. Okay. Yes. So there are some very subtle ones that even the Venerable Sariputta cannot see it clearly. So yeah, so maybe not all of them. But we have to look at those obvious ones, and from there we start working, no? And then, but still, then we may say, then why do we have to know about them at all if we cannot see them, no? But actually, sometimes because we don't have to experience every single thing, but knowing their functions and knowing how it works help us understand the full picture. Right, even if we cannot see exactly how it is, but we can understand how it works. Sometimes there are some meditators, after studying the Abhidhamma, they thought that in meditation we have to see each chitta arising or each mental process, how it arises. Actually, it is very difficult. And then maybe it is, maybe even sometimes not so possible to see it one by one there, or how it works, no? But understanding the process, understanding these chittas, it helps us when we do meditate, we can understand easier the proximate cause or what we are looking for, no? Like why it happens like this, how does the thing actually works, no? So all this give us information to help us with our meditation. But we don't necessarily have to see them exactly how it arises and how it passes away. Okay, so anyone else with any other question? Nothing else? Okay, so if there's nothing else, then we will stop here today. And thank you very much. So next week we will continue with the ethically variable occasional Cetasikas. So let's close by sharing merits and dedicating our effort for the attainment of Nibbana. Itam no punyam Magaphalanyana pacheyo hotu. Itam no punyam magaphalanyana pacheyo hotu. Itam no punyam magaphalanyana pacheyo hotu. Itam no punyam savasatanam pajima. Itam no punyam savasatanam pajima. Itam no punyam savasatanam pajima. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Okay, thank you everyone, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Have a good week.
Bye bye.
Thank you.
Thank you
Have a
very
good
much.
week, everyone.
Thank you.